ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति. Namaskar, my dear friends. This is video number 13 on Brahma and his various aspects. In this video starts with methods of instruction symbols. The seventh chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad narrates the story of Sanat Kumara instructing Narada in the knowledge of Dharma. The pupil had studied the different branches of the lower knowledge, such as the Vedic rituals, the Puranas, grammar, ethics, and other sciences. But with all that, he knew that he could not overcome grief. He therefore asked the teacher for that knowledge which would carry him beyond grief. Sanat Kumara told Narada that all he had studied was only a name. He taught Narada about Brahma through such symbols as Vak, speech, Manas, mind, Sankalpa, desire, Chittam, mind, stuff, and Dhyanam, meditation. Through these, Narada was instructed finally in Bhuma, the infinite beyond which there is nothing, which comprehends all, fills all space, and yet is identical with Atma. The Upanishads abound in symbolic representations of Brahma and Atma. What is the meaning of a symbol? It is a visible sign of an invisible entity. The Sanskrit words generally used for symbol are Partika and Pratima. Some of the important symbols of Dharma are Prana, the vital breath, Vayu, wind, Akasha, space, Manas, mind, Aditya, the sun, and Om. A Pratima or image as seen in the popular religions is also a symbol of the Godhead. Beginners with their restricted understanding need a symbol in order to contemplate the higher. Thus a cross, an arc, a crescent, a statue, a book, fire, and temples have all been used as so many symbols. In the minds of the unworthy, a symbol often degenerates into an idol which is worshipped. To worship a symbol as God is idolatry. But to worship God through a symbol is a legitimate means of divine communion. In one case, the Godhead is brought down to the level of a material object. In the other case, the image itself is spiritualized. The Upanishads stress the method of knowledge more than that of formal worship. The truth is to be realized by hearing about it from a qualified teacher, reasoning about it in one's own mind, and lastly by contemplating it. Prajapati taught Indra about Atma by stages. He had once declared the self, Atma, which is free from sin, free from old age, from death and grief, from hunger and thirst, which desires nothing but what it ought to desire, and imagined nothing but what it ought to imagine, that it is which we must search out, that it is which we must try to understand. Indra, the king of the gods, and Virochana, the king of the demons, had approached Prajapati and asked him about the knowledge of Atma. He taught them first through the illustration of the reflection one sees by looking into another's eye, into water, and into a mirror, saying that what they saw there was Atma. Both disciples took the body for the self and went away satisfied. But Indra, after some contemplation, found limitations inherent in the corporeal self, which therefore could not be immortal and fearless, free from hunger and thirst, sinless, and free from old age. He asked the teacher for further instruction and was taught that the self which roams about untrammeled in dreams was Atma. In dreams, it is free from the limitations of the waking body and yet it remains real and individual. But Indra thought that though the limitations of the waking state might not affect the dream soul, yet it remained bound by corporeal conditions. For instance, in dreams also one becomes conscious as it were of pain and sheds tears. At last Prajapati said, when a man being asleep, relaxed, and at perfect rest sees no dreams, that is the self. This is the immortal, the fearless, this is Brahma. Indra had thought that the state of deep sleep was surely a state of annihilation when a man remains ignorant of himself and the universe. Prajapati explained, however, the significance of deep sleep in which the distinction of subject and object ceases to exist. It is nearest to the experience of Turiya or pure consciousness, when the self realizes itself as the knowing subject without any object. This is the true and pristine nature of consciousness, not resting upon empirical experience or devoted to objects external to itself. In the above illustration, we see three successive conceptions of Atma. First is the ordinary materialistic view. Atma is the body, it perishes with it. The image seen in water or a mirror is a reflection of the body, complete to the hair and the nails. When the body is adorned with fine clothes, the reflection also appears to be so adorned. Therefore, by protecting the body with food and clothes, one protects Atma. Second, Atma is the individual soul which is always associated with a body but never dependent upon a particular one. In sleep, the waking body is replaced by a dream body. According to this view, Atma is bound by corporeal conditions through successive births and deaths. Third, Atma is pure consciousness, the non-dual and supreme self, omnipresent and omniscient. It exists independent of empirical experience. The method followed in the above instruction is called the Arundhati Nyaya, or way of showing the star Arundhati. According to an old Hindu custom, a bride after her marriage is asked to look at a tiny star called Arundhati, hardly visible to the naked eye. She is first told to fix her gaze on the branch of a tree pointing to the star, next on a large star close to it, then on a smaller star, and at last, when her eyes are trained on Arundhati itself. Brahma as Prana and Vayu. Two frequent Two frequently used symbols of Brahma in the Upanishads are prana and vayu. The word prana, often inadequately translated as breath, is used in a variety of ways. It denotes the vital organs, the breathing, and also the life principle which animates the vital organs. It is identical with Vayu, the wind, which is the vital breath of universe. Of Vayu, the cosmic breath, the breath of the individual is a partial manifestation, as in the case of the fly shuttle in a textile mill. When the prana begins to work, all the organs work. The body of an organic being lives as long as the prana inhabits it. All the organs are dependent upon the prana. As bees go out when their queen goes out, and return when she returns. Thus deed, speech, eye, mind, and ear follow the prana. As the spokes of a wheel hold to the nave, so does all this hold to the prana. Relinquished by the prana, a living being is reduced to a corpse without value or significance. The Chandogya Upanishad quoted above says that a man must not treat roughly his father or mother or sister or brother or teacher. If he does not, so he is condemned by all. But after the prana has left them, their bodies, now corpses, may be struck even a spear as is done to a burning body on a funeral pyre. Several Upanishads describe the rivalry of the organs to determine which one is supreme. Once, for example, the vital organs came to Prajapati to learn which of them was essential to a living being. Prajapati said, "He on account of whose departure the body seems worse than the worst, he is the best among you." The tongue speech departed, having been absent for a year. It came back and asked, "How have you been able to live without me?" The other organs replied, like mute people, not speaking but breathing with the nose, seeing with the eyes, hearing with the ears, and thinking with the mind. Thus we lived. Then one by one the eyes, the ears, the mind departed, but the body continued to live, like one blind, one deaf, or one whose mind, like that of an infant, is not yet formed. But the prana, when on the point of departing, tore up the other senses as a horse, when he breaks loose tears of the pegs to which he is tethered. They all came to him and said, "Sir, be thou our Lord, thou art the best among us, do not depart from us." Prana is not only the life principle in the individual, it is also a cosmic principle. The Upanishads speak of the identity of the microcosm and the macrocosm, that which is manifest in the universe as a whole with all its phenomena finds complete expression in man as well. Thus it is said of a man that his head is heaven, his navel is the interspace, his feet the earth, his eyes the sun, his mind the moon, his mouth Indra and Agni, his ears the heavenly regions, and his prana the wind. Prana, on account of its pervasiveness, is identified with Vayu, the wind, just as in the contest among the organs the prana was declared to be the chief, so also in the contest among the gods, fire, the sun, the moon, and Vayu, which are the cosmic equivalents of the organs. Vayu came out supreme, for when all the gods became weary, Vayu alone retained its energy. Other deities fade, but not so Vayu. Regarding Vayu, it is declared from which the sun rises and in which it sets. Prana as Vayu is identified with Hiranyagarbha or Sutratma. Through this sutra or Vayu, this and next life and all beings are held together. The senses at the time of deep sleep enter into the prana, and the deities at the end of a cycle into Sutratma or the cosmic prana. Thus we find in the Upanishads that one of the most important symbols of Brahma is prana, the life principle that pervades and sustains the universe and the individual body. Prana is verily Dharma, Prano Vaye Brahma. Next is Manas and Akasha. The Manas or mind is the inner organ. It is the instrument of deliberation. The mind deliberates on the sensations gathered through the outer organs, eyes, ears, nose, skin, and tongue, and determines what is right and what is wrong. Though an untrained mind is a cause of attachment and bondage, a purified mind is the means by which one realizes Dharma. May he stimulate our understanding is the most ancient prayer of the Vedas. The Upanishads have used the mind as a symbol of Dharma. Let a man meditate on the mind as Brahma, Mano Vaya Brahma. The mind is verily Brahma. Akasa generally translated as sky, space, ether, or heaven has no real equivalent in English. Swami Vivekananda has described it as an intangible substance which is the finest form of matter, as prana is the subtlest form of energy. Akasa is that all pervading and all penetrating substance found everywhere in the universe, of which tangible objects are gross manifestations. It is the first material element to be evolved from Brahma. On account of its omnipresence and all pervasiveness, Akasa is often used as a symbol of Brahma. It is Akasa from which all these creatures take their rise and into which they again return. Akasa is older than these. Akasa is their ultimate end. The Brahma, which has been thus described as immortal, with 3 feet in heaven, and as the Gayatri is the same as the Akasa which is around us, and the Akasa which is around us is the same as the Akasa which is within us, and the Akasa which is within us is the same as the Akasa which is within the heart. That Akasa which is within the heart is omnipresent and unchanging. The Akasa within the lotus of the heart is to be meditated upon as Brahma. In the Chandogya Upanishad, Kham Akasa is declared to be identical with the Kamli. Kam is Brahma, Kham is Brahman. Through these mutual qualities, both sensually are denied with respect to Brahma. The sun. Of all phenomenal objects, the sun was regarded with the greatest wonder and admiration by the ancients everywhere. Its rays dispel darkness, and the daytime is generally filled with the various activities by which a civilization is created and developed. Even modern scientists are looking to the cosmic rays associated with the sun as a source of matter. The Upanishads describe the sun as a symbol of Dharma. The Gayatri mantra is directed to the Purusha dwelling in the sun. The natural sunlight is a symbol of spiritual light. Brahma is the real sun of the universe, and the natural sun is the phenomenal form of Dharma. The Purusha in the sun, whose counterpart is the Purusha in the right eye, was worshipped by the Vedic seers. A dying man prays to the sun. The door of the truth is covered by a golden disc. Open it, O nourisher, remove it so that I who have been worshipping the truth may behold it. O nourisher, lone traveler of the sky, controller, O sun, offspring of Prajapati, gather your rays, withdraw your light. I would see through your grace That form of yours which is the fairest, I am indeed he, that Purusha who dwells there. But the most important symbol of Brahma is Om. It is, as stated before, the symbol of both Nirguna Brahma and Brahma with attributes. Ordinary worshippers cannot disregard symbols. Only the highest man in the depths of his meditation sees truth face to face and gives up symbols. As the time changes, so do the symbols. Most of the Vedic symbols are out of date. Their places have been taken by other and newest one. Brahma and Atma psychology. The Vedanta philosophy admits the existence of a multitude of individual souls, Jivatmas, and distinguishes these from the Supreme Soul, Paramatma. The individual soul is attached to a body and is the victim of hunger and thirst, pain and pleasure, good and evil, and the other pairs of opposites. Limited in power and wisdom, it is entangled in the eternal round of samsara and seeks deliverance from it. Scriptural study, instruction from a teacher, and practice of ethical and spiritual disciplines are all meant for the benefit of bound individual souls. The Supreme Soul or Brahma is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. It is externally free, illumined, and pure. When a man realizes Brahma, he transcends the scriptures, ethics, and the injunctions of religion. But until that moment, the experiences of the embodied individual soul are real to him. As long as he sees good and evil, he must cultivate the former and shun the latter. The experience of deep sleep is real to the sleeper, but it ceases to exist when he begins to dream. Dream experiences are real to the dreamer, but becomes meaningless when he is awake. Likewise, waking experiences are real to the waking person, but becomes meaningless to him when he attains the knowledge of Dharma. Though the individual soul and the Supreme Soul are apparently as different from each other as a glowworm from the sun and a mustard seed from Mount Everest, yet in reality they are completely identical. Each individual soul is Brahma, the Absolute. Its real nature appears to be limited by the upadhis of the sense organs, the mind, the prana, and so forth, all created by ignorance or avidya. Under the influence of this cosmic illusion, which is capable of making the impossible possible. The Sanskrit word Atma has been translated in the present book as soul and self. Atma has been used in the Vedanta philosophy to denote both the individual being and the supreme being. Though ultimately these are identical, yet their difference is admitted in the relative state. The individual being has been expressed by Atma, soul and self with small letter. The supreme being by Atma, soul and self with capital letter. The Sanskrit word Purusha has been translated as person. This word too signifies both the individual being and the universal being. We have indicated the difference by the use of small and capital letter. The word means literally the one who dwells in the body or who pervades the body, which may be the individual physical body or the universe. According to the non-dualist, the Purusha, the Supreme Person, is pure consciousness, pervading the individual body and the universe both, but the dualists describe it as a person endowed with a form and attributes. The attributeless Brahma becomes both Maheswara or the Supreme Lord and the Jiva or individual soul. The former has Maya under his control, the latter is controlled by Maya. The individual soul takes Maya to be real. The Upanishads admit the empirical reality Vyavaharika Sattva of the Jiva and deal with its characteristics, wanderings and final deliverance. But it must always be remembered that the self is Atma, one and without a second. This is yourself that is within all. Atma through Maya has projected material forms from itself and then entered into them as their living self. Anena Jivena Atmana Anuparveshya. Thus the Upanishads speak of two souls as it were, dwelling side by side in a man, the real soul and the apparent soul. Two, there are who dwell within the body in the buddhi, the supreme akasha of the heart, enjoying the sure rewards of their own actions. The knowers of Brahman describe them as light and shade. When it is said that the Supreme Soul enjoys rewards, the statement is to be taken in a figurative sense. He does not in reality enjoy anything but looks on indifferently at the activities of the other soul. The contrast between the two is made vivid in the following text. Two birds, inseparable friends, cling to the same tree. One of them eats the sweet fruit, the other looks on without eating. On the same tree, the Purusha sits, grieving, emerged, bewildered by his own impotence. But when he sees the other, the Lord contented and knows his glory, then his grief passes away. The whole fifth chapter of the Svetasvara Upanishad is devoted to the contrast between the Supreme Soul and the individual soul. The individual soul is endowed with desire, ego, and mind. It enjoys the fruits of its actions. It is limited and insignificant, but it wins immortality after ridding itself of its upadhis. Then it is recognized as identical with the infinitely great Supreme Soul. It is not woman, it is not man, nor it is neuter. Whatever body it takes, with that it is joined. By means of thoughts, touching, seeing, and passions, the jiva, assumed successively in body, grows when food and drink are poured into it. The jiva assumes many shapes, coarse or refined, in accordance with his virtue, and having himself caused his union with them, is seen as different beings through the qualities of his acts and the qualities of his body. It has already been stated that the Supreme Soul through Maya assumes a limited body and becomes finite and individualized. The great mystery is that even while subjective to all the limitations and sufferings of the relative world, it does not in reality lose even in the slightest degree its perfect nature, while the jiva, compelled by the bright and dark fruits of its actions, enters on a good or a bad birth, follows a course upwards or downwards, and roams about overcome by the pairs of opposites. His immortal self remains like a drop of water on a lotus leaf. He himself is overcome by the gunas of nature. Then, because he is thus overcome, he becomes bewildered, and because he is bewildered, he does not see the Creator, the Holy Lord, abiding within himself, carried along by the waves of the gunas, darkened in his imagination, unstable, fickle, crippled, full of desires, vacillating, sensual, disordered, and a prey to delusion. He fancies, "This is I, this is mine," and fetters himself by his own actions as a bird by its nest. Shankaracharya explains the cause of his bondage as the result of his works, which have originated from such functions of the mind as will and desire, manaha sankalpa, ichha adi, nispanchkarma nimittena. From Atma are born prana, mind, and all the sense organs. After creating the body, Atma enters into it as the living soul. Right to the tips of the fingers, he feels the body and is hiding it like a knife in its sheath or fire in fuel. When it does the function of living, it is called the prana. When it speaks, the organ of speech. When it sees, the eye. When it hears, the ears. And when it thinks, the mind. These are merely its names according to its functions. The sense organs. There are 10 indriyas, sense organs, all subordinate to the mind as the central organ. A sense organ, the eye, for instance, is not the outer instrument that one sees, nor the optic nerve, but its subtle counterpart which accompanies the subtle body after death. The sense organs are different from the prana. The latter is active even in sleep. When the when the senses do not function, as the rays of light are gathered in the sunset, so also on a man's falling asleep is all this gathered in the manas, the supreme deity. Therefore, at the time the man does not hear, see, smell, taste, or touch. He does not speak, grasp, beget, evacuate, or move about. He sleeps, that is what people say. The sense organs are 10, 5 of perception, 5 of action. The former comprise the ears, nose, tongue, skin, and eyes. The latter the hands, feet, tongue, and the organs of evacuation and generation. The mind is the inner organ, the antakarna, desire, deliberation, doubt, faith, want of faith, patience, impatience, shame, intelligence, and fear. All these are but the mind. The mind is the central organ of the entire conscious life. The impressions carried by the sense organs are shaped by the mind into ideas, for we see only with the mind, hear with the mind. Further, the mind changes the idea into resolutions of the will, sankalpa. When a man directs his manas to the study of the sacred hymns and sayings, he then studies them when to the accomplishment of works. He then accomplishes them when to the desire for sons and cattle. He then desires them when to the desire for the present and the future world. He then desires them. So I end this video here. Next video will start with prana. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thanks a lot. Namaskar, my dear friends.